felt that he could better do his job of gatekeeping between heaven and hell as an outcast. The result and consequences of all this falling to earth, I guess these angels, being immortal, figured that any punishment issued by God, I guess they figured that they would get through the punishment over time. And the worst thing that could happen is that they would just be destroyed by God, right? Wrong. See, there were 4 angels watching this: Michael, Uriel, Raphael, and Gabriel, who are all to some degree considered angels of death, but not fallen angels. Even they couldn't believe the punishment that was dished out. At one point, God sends Raphael to bind Azazel hand and foot, open up a hole in the desert, and throw him in there, which is in Dudael, which since that time period the name of the place has changed. Some have a strong feeling that this place is Palestine, which is Israel, which is pretty close to the Euphrates as well. Enoch had direct communication with Azazel and came with the message or sentence. And Enoch went and said, Azazel, thou shalt have no peace. A severe sentence has gone forth against thee to put thee in bonds. And thou shalt not have toleration nor request granted to thee, because of the unrighteousness which thou hast taught, and because of all the works of godlessness and unrighteousness and sin which thou hast shown to men. Then I went and spoke to them all together, and they were all afraid, and fear and trembling seized them. And they besought me to draw up a petition for them, that they might find forgiveness, and to read their petition in the presence of the Lord of heaven. For from thenceforward they could not speak with him, nor lift up their eyes to heaven for shame of their sins for which they had been condemned. Then I wrote out their petition, and the prayer in regard to their spirits and their deeds individually, and in regard to their request that they should have forgiveness and length of days. And I went off and sat down at the waters of Dan, in the land of Dan, to the south of the west of Hermon. I read their petition till I fell asleep. And behold, a dream came to me, and visions fell down upon me. And I saw visions of chastisement, and a voice came bidding me, I to tell it to the sons of heaven, and reprimand them. And when I awaked, I came unto them, and they were all sitting gathered together, weeping in Abasjail, which is between Lebanon and Sennacer, with their faces covered. And I recounted before them all the visions which I had seen in sleep. And I began to speak the words of righteousness, and to reprimand the heavenly watchers. Needless to say, God did not change his mind. Once it is spoken, it is so. So, them and the others were bound in the valleys of the earth, assuming not all in one place either. And Haditha Dam is one of those places that may indeed be a prison for fallen angels. There are 4 nations that are bound to the Euphrates, and some believe that these nations represent the 4 fallen angels bound there. But it probably means that they hold dominion over regions, powers, and principalities of which, according to angel hierarchy, are responsible for setting nations against each other. And if there are the angels responsible for wiping out a third of mankind, then this is the area to start it up. If we start at the Persian Gulf, the Euphrates actually divides Iraq and Iran. Then it runs off to the west, right straight through the middle of Iraq, all the way up into Syria. It flows into Lake Assad, then it goes all the way up into Turkey, into a series of lakes. Now, along the Euphrates in Iraq, right before you get to Syria's border, there is the Haditha Dam Lake, along with the dam and hydro plant, which has a strong U.S. military presence as well as being one of the largest dams in the world. Let me tell you what happened. The dam was built in the late 70s, and it was a joint project between Iraq, the Soviet Union, with a price tag of over $800 million. It was designed to regulate the flow of the Euphrates, as well as provide hydroelectric energy and irrigation to the region. Consequently, the completed construction caused the flooding of at least 2 ancient archaeological sites in the early 80s.
Are you over 25? Have a clean driving record? No DUIs? You can drop your auto insurance rate to as low as $19 a month. How?
So in 91, we have Saddam Hussein and Operation Desert Storm, where he flooded the Persian Gulf with oil. After that, the U.S. began to look at Iraqi infrastructure to find possible destruction targets that, if destroyed, would devastate the economy and land, sending the nation into chaos. And the Haditha Dam was one of those possible targets. The U.S. suspected Saddam of developing nuclear weapons and wanted to do a sweep of mostly the western region of Iraq. I mean, they set up a special forces unit you wouldn't believe. They didn't find any weapons of mass destruction, but in the process of all that, they would take control of a number of targets. And at the end, they wanted 2 main targets: the Ramadi Highway and the Haditha Dam, which was guarded beyond belief. I'm talking multiple tanks, missile launchers, the works. But that didn't stop the U.S., and they invaded the dam in a night assault. And this team of Rangers, very proficient at what they do, by the way, seized the dam. And the rest is history. So as you can see, there is already a ton of negative energy and death surrounding this area. You can only imagine the amount. The Haditha Dam is now, by all means, a U.S. military facility or base. And you know, when they take something, they're keeping it. How many of you have heard of the Haditha Massacre? There are stories along the Euphrates River of strange phenomenon reported by soldiers, mostly ghostly phenomena and UFO sightings, but this is a place that may have been where man originated and where the first murder occurred. Since then, the blood that has spilled on the land is unfathomable. Not to mention, it is the ancient site of Babylon. There are stories of soldiers encountering possessed Iraqis. There is no doubt in my mind that this place is teeming with spirits of all sorts. Tired